Amazing. Welcome everyone. Again, if you have been in another session during the day, we are so happy to have you all here. If this is your first session of the day, we are so happy you made it to the last sessions of the day. We only have three, and then the Green Talent Forum is gonna be over, sadly. But we are so happy you are here. We're gonna talk about, as you might know, about how to stand out and get higher in the green jobs market. We have been talking about and with amazing companies during the day, amazing experts who are changing basically the world and helping us create a better future. So now it's time to start to think, okay, great, how can I get a job like that, right? So this is what we are going to talk about today. And before we start the session, I would just like to thank our partner, the Posterity Institute, and our sponsor, Majid Al Futtaim, for making this event possible and for making it possible for all of you to be here. And with that, I would like to introduce Katherine Stiff. She's one of our team members at Localized. She has like vast experience. She has more than 10 years experience working across the EMEA region. She currently is the business development director at Localized, and she basically helps early stage talent like you guys connect with global employers and industry experts in Localize. So I will stop there. I don't think that's enough presentation for you, but I will stop there just because your time is really valuable. So I will pass it on to you so you can start with the presentation.
Thank you so much, Michelle, and thank you everyone for being here and for making the time. I hope you've all had a great day up till this point. We've had some incredible speakers joining us from all over the world, from a wide range of industries. And just as Michelle said, I think what I want to take this session to do is to dive a little bit deeper into some of the kind of practical steps and insights that we can use to sort of help you, our localized community, into your journey into a green job. So I'd love to dive straight in. Michelle, is that okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Sounds great. So I think what would just be helpful before we get into some of the different steps and before we sort of kick off the Q&A is just to really talk about the green jobs landscape. And I think one sort of interesting data point that really sort of stood out to me and has while doing a little bit of research is that LinkedIn ran a global green skills report earlier this year and found that globally, I think there's been a 15% increase in the number of green jobs being posted, but actually only 1 in 8 people has the required skills. So as the world is shifting towards more sustainability, consumers are demanding greener products, greener brands, greener services, politicians are moving in that direction as well. What does this mean for young people and early stage talent? Well, actually, the really positive news from today is that it represents a really fantastic opportunity for early stage talent because everyone is learning these skills at the same time. So whether you are a seasoned professional or a mid-career professional or just someone who's just beginning their career, there's actually a lot of activity and focus on learning these skills together. So if you like, it's sort of leveling the playing field a little bit, which is very exciting for you, the entry-level talent. And I want to just sort of share, I think, 3 pillars that I think are quite helpful when thinking about jobs in the green economy. So you will have heard from experts today across, yogurt and sustainable protein and automotives and slow fashion and all these different sectors. And I think the first pillar I want to talk about is just research. And really starting with why. So you as an individual, what makes you feel energized? Where are your passions? Where are your skills and talents? Out of all of the experts that you've heard here today, which sessions really resonated with you the most? Is it sustainable fashion? And if so, how can your skills align with that sector? So I think starting with why, and another very core bit here is also just values as well. And this is where the research part comes in, is if you have a particular interest in an industry or in a company, just learn as much as you possibly can about it, about their mission, their culture, what are the opportunities for learning and development, any specific benefits they might offer, and just really try and get under the skin of the companies and industries that you're focusing on. And there are different ways that you can do this. And I think one really incredible thing about the age that we live in is it's the information age, right? There's an unlimited supply of knowledge that we can tap into to sort of help us on this journey. So for companies, if you're doing research, I'd suggest setting up news alerts, checking their social media, seeing if their CEO or perhaps some of their executives have spoken on a panel or on a podcast. If they're a big internationally listed company, they will have investor reports. And especially if you're looking at a company with a sort of environmental sustainability lens, this can actually be a really fantastic way of learning more about what a company is doing in the ESG space. Check them out in the news. Have they been targeted by shareholder activists for not doing enough? Read, and just see where you can potentially find yourself working in a specific company. And then before we move on to the next pillar, really just seeing what existing skills that you have that might neatly transition to the green economy. So a couple of examples, really, if you are studying electrical engineering or perhaps civil engineering, this might be a really logical fit for you to get into, solar panel maintenance and solar panel engineering. If you are studying finance or business, you might like to explore the world of carbon accounting. There's also sustainable design, carbon capture marketing, all these different avenues. So you can take actually the existing skills that you do have and then build on those, which neatly leads us to our next pillar, which is just upskilling. And I've just recently touched on this, but there are so many ways that we can access content related to the green economy and use it to really, add to what we know already. So I'm talking webinars, blogs, TikTok, YouTube, TED Talks, any and all podcasts, all these different content mediums that you can learn from and really sort of engage with and help to build out your knowledge. So if you are a current student at university, I'd encourage you to get involved in university campus initiatives that align with what you're interested in. Do some university coursework that might be relevant, sign up to free webinars and courses. Even for the alumni community, there are often fantastic events affiliated with different universities that you can tap into. Follow influencers on social media. We're all on social media. Enter competitions, enter hackathons, getting involved also with student and alumni societies. I'm sure many of you are familiar with organizations like ISEC or the Model UN. So really just kind of establishing as much engagement as you can with all different kinds of areas, which fundamentally will help you in your journey to a green job. And it'll also just make you a very rounded candidate for all kinds of jobs more broadly. Moving on to our third pillar is volunteering. And I want to share a data point with you all that I uncovered, which I thought was incredible. Deloitte, the big consulting firm, runs a volunteer impact survey every couple of years. And the hiring HR professionals that were surveyed actually said that 82% of them were more likely to decide on a candidate that had some volunteering experience. And I just want to talk about this in the context of job hunting. And speaking from personal experience, I've been in a situation where a job hunt has taken me longer than I wanted it to, and it can be stressful and it can cause anxiety and be quite a frustrating process. But I think if you are in that situation and you are busy job hunting, if you do have 1 or 2 days a week or even a couple of hours, I'm going to share some resources with you after the session, but there are hundreds of incredible climate change related volunteering organizations, whether some of them might even be paid, some of them are fully virtual, some of them are in person. But the common denominator is that if you are looking to gain a bit of a foothold in a specific industry, or if you're looking to find a full-time job, volunteering can be a really great way of just staying engaged, staying mentally sharp, using your skills, and also building your professional network, because you might be in the middle of volunteering for an organization, and you might be connecting with people on meetings or LinkedIn or different sort of formats as well. So I think volunteering is really interesting, and I want to also focus on skills-based volunteering as well. So when I was looking through some of these internships, a couple of the skills that jumped out were data science, marketing, social media management, translation. There are enormous numbers of climate change related projects all around the world that require multiple languages. And one of the incredible things about the localized community is everyone is multilingual. So I would really encourage those interested to look into volunteering to kind of bolster your efforts. And I'd like to do a screen share now, if I can, and just give you a little bit of a sense of the steps that you can take right from today on Localized, fresh from the Green Talent Forum, feeling full of enthusiasm, steps that you can take really to help you in your journey. So if I just do a screen share here. Okay. Great. So this is something I wanted to talk about as well, is the different facets of your profile on Localized that can really kind of make a difference and stand out to recruiters. And as Michelle mentioned, I am the partnership lead for all of our employers. So I look after our relationships with big global brands like PayPal, Unilever, Cisco, and Google. And there are some very sort of common denominator best practices that come up again and again in terms of what employers are really looking for and what can make you really stand out. So number one is a bio. And I think this is something that you all will have seen. You're all active on Localized, you're all registered on Localized. It's right at the top of your profile. And it could even be 1 or 2 sentences, but it's so important just to give a brief sense to a recruiter about who you are and what you love and what your personality is all about. So very off the cuff example, your bio could say, I am a second year finance major studying at University X, looking to get a job in finance or investment banking. On the side, I'm a passionate vegetarian and I have an Instagram page dedicated to vegetarian recipes that I share, and I have followers or something. You know, you can really, if you're looking to get a job in the sustainability space, you can really draw in your private passions and what you love and what you care about and what you're passionate about. I don't know who was watching the incredible Shabani session with Hamdi just shortly earlier, but you could see coming through his absolute passion for doing what he did, which just drove him to success every day. So bio, I would say, is very crucial. The second thing is the photo, and this might sound like an obvious one, but having a nice, colorful, sort of professional looking headshot photograph, even if it's a friend that takes one for you, that can really make a huge difference to your digital footprint and your presence on Localized. And it's something that recruiters love to see. Content, again, this is just populating your profile, which is with as much information about yourself as possible. I recently mentioned languages. If you speak multiple languages, absolutely mark that on your profile. That's a huge, enormous advantage in today's workforce more broadly. Mention your languages, put your links to your projects. So even if you haven't got lots of experience, perhaps you are a software developer and you've got a GitHub portfolio, or perhaps you have links to a blog that you've done in your spare time, or you've made a website. Put your projects on your profile because it can really make a lot of difference. And then obviously keep your educational information up to date, add your CV if you have one, and just make sure that when you are presenting yourself on Localized, you're really putting your best foot forward, because we do have very high level global recruitment talent looking for staff. And then effort as well. This comes back to what I was talking about, just with getting involved, just get engaged, make the most of Localized. We have a fantastic in-house career coach called Iyad Yaqub. I'm sure many of you might have attended previous sessions with Iyad. He comes on every single week and he does cover letter reviews, CV workshops, all topics related to navigating that transition between academia and joining the world of work. So absolutely make as much effort as you can to get involved with those. And then care as well. I mean, I know that we've all probably done this in the past, but I have to say it's obvious, I think, to a recruiter when someone has not spent time on their application, or perhaps they've done a copy paste with their cover letter. All of these things are quite easy to spot. So I would just urge you, if you are applying for a job or an internship on Localized or anywhere, just really take those extra few minutes, or get somebody that you trust, perhaps at your university or somebody in your family, to help you with maybe a second pair of eyes or some proofreading for that. And then finally, just curiosity. I think this is universal for everyone. And certainly for me, I graduated university a long time ago, but I always try continually to self-improve, upskill, add to what I know already, read, take short courses if I can. That, I think, doesn't leave you. If you are a naturally sort of curious person and you're wanting to get ahead and engage, I think that's an incredibly crucial and valuable skill that I do not suggest lightly. So to all of our users, you're here today, which is a fantastic start. You're engaging in the Green Talent Forum, but just keep that curiosity going if you can. So I'll pause there. I've been talking a lot. I think, Michelle, we're going to do probably a bit of Q&A.
Yes.
So yes.
Yeah, great. And just so you know, there have been like some comments in the chat that the pillars, or like the main components you mentioned, are like really, really great. So I just wanted to mention that. And yeah, so before I see some people are starting to send your questions, thank you. I will start with some questions we have while you guys send your questions away. But yeah, so you mentioned like really practical examples of, like, for example, if a student, like, I don't know, likes sustainable fashion, or likes, or is a vegan or vegetarian and has like an Instagram page, or does like campaigns like in their community, that they can portray that in their bio, for example. But I'm curious if you have seen like students who have like show this example of activities, or maybe like the on-campus initiatives they volunteer in, if they put this in their CVs or cover letters, and how do you like recommend people to put that in their official documents apart from the localized profile?
Sure. No, it's a brilliant question. And I think the overarching objective is obviously to be professional at all times. So I think there are ways of highlighting your passions and your personality, but still keeping it very corporate and professional and appropriate to a recruiter. I would try and use the outcome of any activities you were involved with and how it made a difference. So we live in a very data-driven world. Everybody wants to see impact data. I did this, which resulted in this. So I think if you are, for example, volunteering for a campus-based initiative, and perhaps it was recycling, you could actually draw that in and say, because of my participation or helping to spearhead this initiative, as a university, we saved X kilos of plastic or something. Just that's a really small example. But I think if you can portray in any of your cover letters or your bios or your CV, and that's universal, by the way, whatever stage of your career you're at, if you are putting yourself forward to a recruiter, you want to show that your work actually had a tangible, measurable impact. Did you save the company money? Was there user growth, user acquisition? Did you expand into new markets? So that's the kind of overarching theme, I think, for a lot of people's CVs and cover letters. But if you can tie that back in some way to sustainability and talk about initiatives that you were involved with that really had an impact, I think that's a good way of doing it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. So I see a lot of questions coming up, so I will start taking some of them. So we have both in the Q&A and in the chat. I will read them for you, but just in case you want to check them out. So we have one coming from Susanna, which I will actually like to like respond, and then like, of course, if you have like any other like input from your side. But Susanna is asking in the chat, well, she's sharing that she's an energy engineer from Zambia. And then she's saying the renewable energy sector in third world countries like mine is far from developed. Are there any opportunities for foreigners for places like third world Africa to come and gain more experience in the renewable energy sector in first world countries, and to have like a more robust and fully operational energy sectors? So I would like to just input there that we have had many speakers today sharing experiences from like taking fellowships or volunteering experiences or like short-term like jobs in other countries, and it can be in developed countries or in the developing countries, honestly, to gain experience. So that will be one thing that you could do if you have the opportunity. And as well, on Localized, we also have many times we have like remote jobs and internships where you can like maybe tap into a company that is working in the energy sector in the USA, for example. And maybe it's not operational, but you could gain insights or experience in other roles, like more like the data collections or data science or monitoring and evaluating in an NGO, for example, to have the project that they're working in the energy sector. So I would just like to give you those ideas so you can have like more options in mind. But I don't know, Katherine, if you have any other input on that.
No, I think that was a very robust answer. No, absolutely. Everything that Michelle said. And also, because while we talk about volunteering and getting different skills potentially virtually, there are sort of obvious practical real world considerations, and it's not practical to volunteer long term, and everyone is ultimately looking for paid employment. So I would highly recommend, particularly, you're an engineer, you're also a woman in STEM, so that you would be actually very in demand for multilateral institutions, potentially like the World Bank, IFC. These are all institutions that have big renewable energy projects all over. So some of them might be regional in sub-Saharan Africa, and others might be based in perhaps London, Geneva, Washington, DC. So I think you have you're starting from a position of real strength, and you have a strong profile. So I would say look at multilaterals as well.
Amazing. Let's see. We have, oh my God, we have so many questions. Okay, so we have an anonymous person in the Q&A. So they're asking if you can share the Deloitte article. We can share it afterwards on the event page. And then they're asking if you can, like, when looking for a volunteering like opportunity or experience, what should we be looking when we try to gain experience through volunteering? And I think it's related to what you were saying about like how we align this to like the outcome base that we get to the outcome that we want.
Absolutely, and it's a really valid question. I think that you should probably use a little bit of discretion when looking at different volunteering opportunities. I think the ones that will have the most value and have the most impact are the ones that utilize skills that you might have already. So it's normal to do internships that are more administration based, perhaps, and that's completely fine. But I think for real value add, potentially, if you have a STEM background, could you clean data? Are you proficient in SQL, perhaps? Can you code in different languages? Could you get voluntary experience building financial models or models using Python? Are you a social media whiz? Do you love digital content marketing? Could you help an NGO to grow awareness of a specific issue that's really important and highlight that change? So I think any key skill that you have already that you can boost or grow, that's a good way to look for voluntary experience.
Amazing. And there's a question related to that, and you just mentioned like NGOs. There's a question related to that in the chat from Moaz. They're asking if working at NGOs and nonprofits should give you enough, I guess, like experience and courage to apply for climate economy organizations and companies. What do you think?
Oh, I'd say yes. And actually, so just on a personal note, I started out my career. I got work experience at the United Nations. I worked in Syria for a year, and I then transitioned into a sort of more traditional consulting background, and obviously now I'm here at Localized. But I think that every experience brings something beneficial and brings a richness to it. So while there are practicalities to consider, jumping between public and private sector, I think there are real benefits to having both sets of experience in your kind of, I suppose you'd say, your professional portfolio. I think it's a very powerful thing.
Yeah, and I would just like to add that we don't know exactly in which topic you're working or you're passionate about, Moaz, but like many times, especially in these topics that we have been talking today regarding sustainability, the green economy, green jobs, whether it's energy, it's food security, it's sustainability in general, corporate social responsibility, whatever is that you're working on, most of the times, I'm not saying always, but most of the time, civil society organization, nonprofits are working actually on the field or with the communities who are like suffering those problems or like solving those problems. So if you have like any type of experience, even if it's volunteering, like working in those topics, and then you want to transition to a company, I think it will be like really, really valuable. And then let's see. We have so many questions. Okay, so can you please point out the organizations working on climate we can consider? I guess that's, if you can elaborate on that question, that would be amazing. But like, you could take, for example, as a starting point, all the companies we have had during the day. We have had some experts and some companies working in energy and working in climate, but I guess it depends on the specific topic you want to work in. Okay, and then let's see. We only have 2 minutes left. I can't believe it, but I'm trying to cover as many questions as we can. Okay, let's see. As a recent graduate, did I already read this? No, as a recent graduate in renewable energy from Morocco, who focused on the theme of green hydrogen in my thesis, I've encountered a limited number of job opportunities in Morocco. How can I effectively navigate this period while searching for my first job, and what strategies can I employ to accelerate the process?
Yes, no, well noted. Thank you, Umaima. I think basically if you're still searching for your first job, and as we've touched on, in recent questions, I think you have to sometimes be a little bit practical in that your first job might not be the one straight away. It might take a couple of years or a couple of different jobs to find the perfect fit. But I would say, as I touched on earlier, I think continuing to stay up to date and relevant on that subject area is crucial. And this is an area that's changing all of the time. We've seen, even in the field of carbon accounting, some of the regulatory standards that were, normal a year ago or 18 months ago are now evolving in real time. So I think keeping up to date on the technical specifics of green hydrogen and everything that comes with that would be very important. And I would say just anecdotally from what I've read and heard, Localized has numerous employer partners in Saudi Arabia. And as part of Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030, there's a huge amount of investment that's gone into green hydrogen and different climate initiatives, but notably green hydrogen. I think Saudi Arabia is really going to be playing very heavily in that space on a global stage. So separate to the job hunt in Morocco, I would keep my eyes on Saudi as well, if that's an option for you, just because there might be some very exciting opportunities there.
Amazing. And it's the end of the session. I'm so sad we only had 30 minutes with you guys, but the good news is that we are the team at Localized. So if we didn't cover all your questions, which I'm sure you have plenty of more questions, you can either find Katherine or me or both in the Localized platform now that you have an account. You can always reach out to us in a message. You can send a message to our profiles. You can attend the sessions that we have with the coach that we have in residence. It's a career coach, as Katherine mentioned, to help you guys more in a workshop type of environment, more like hands-on, how to apply to jobs, how to send your CV, how to apply to a specific role for an energy engineer or whatever you're looking for, you can always find us there. So don't worry if we didn't cover everything. But right now, I would just like to thank you, Katherine, again for your time.
My pleasure. And can I just finish with two very, very quick things? I'm sorry, I know that
Yes.
we're over time, but so I have put together a PDF document of resources. So these are links to free courses, links to helpful websites, volunteering opportunities. So for those who've attended today, I'll be sharing that with you. And the second thing just to note, just kind of a thought I've been having throughout today that I wanted to just share with you is I think for many of us, when we read about climate change, whether it's, from catastrophic events or things that we've seen in the media, there can be this real sense of that it's quite frightening, or that it's this big, overwhelming thing that we can't change. And I hope if you've just come away with anything from today's session, it's the fact that there are some incredibly committed and passionate people changing the world. And the exciting thing for our community is, as early stage talent, you're really kind of starting out and beginning in this really exciting new space with tons and tons of opportunities. So I hope you leave today feeling a little bit optimistic and enthusiastic for the years to come.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much again. And thank you for everyone for staying. Now, I share the link in the chat. I'll see you all in the next session. It's actually with someone who transitioned from the private sector to the UN. So now she's leading one of the areas in the UN, and we have one of the best inventors in the world working in green economy. So I see you all there, and thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.